Welcome back to Season 2 of the Love Letters to Virginia podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Pasmino. Thanks for listening. Love Letters to Virginia, the podcast that keeps Virginia on the map, is sponsored by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Hey, how are you?
Well, how are you?
I'm excellent. So I was taking a look at your website and I found your TikTok and I think you are hilarious.
Thank you. I try to be.
You're doing a great job. I think this is going to be a good year for you.
I feel it too. I had the TikTok for a while, but I didn't really do anything with it. And I said, I'm going to have some fun.
That's awesome. So how long have you been in marital ministry?
I am an ordained minister, so I started with the church, of course. But I started as a wedding planner, and it sort of kind of migrated because I belonged to a small church and didn't do a lot of weddings there because we have a small congregation. So I would say 2017. Yeah, 2017. A coworker of mine, her daughter was getting married and she was looking for someone to perform the services, and she asked me to do it. And ever since then, it's just been one big old wonderful ride.
That's lovely. And you've been wedding planning for at least a decade, right?
Oh yeah, it's been about since 2010, I believe, when I started. Yeah.
Have you always been based out of Newport News?
Originally, well, I'm a native from Virginia.
Okay.
I moved away, I would say in the 90s, to Cleveland, Ohio. So I've been there for about 20 some odd years. And then 2007, I moved back here. So while I was in Ohio, that's where I really started with the wedding planning. And then it kind of just migrated from there.
Awesome. Do you have any favorite venues around here?
My favorite venue I love the Chrysler Museum. Yeah, that's a beautiful aesthetic there. And my second favorite, I would say I love the beach. Anywhere on the ocean front, you can plan a service there, a ceremony there, I'm down for it. But I love the water. So I would say that would be my second location. But there are some very beautiful venues in the 757 area.
Excellent. Do you have any favorite vendors that you like to work with out here?
I do work with one vendor quite often. Whenever she needs a wedding officiant, she gives me a call. The Virginia Beach Wedding Company is based in Virginia Beach, actually on the ocean front, and she specifically used to do on beach weddings. And then she opened up her own facility for venue as a venue for people can also not necessarily have to get married on the beach, but they can also have the reception there. So I pretty much work with Rose Sincata a lot.
Beautiful. Do you have a photographer or a videographer that you usually like to work with?
Not necessarily. Most of the photographers are usually hired by the couple, so I don't really have a real relationship. But one I do particularly like is Robert Ham. He's pretty good, and he always gives me my photos. So I'm really excited to work with him. I don't have to ask. He said, "Here's the link."
So for wedding planning, for the aesthetic for you, is it really just solely dependent on what you get out of the consultation with your couples, or do you have like places that you like to go to for inspiration?
It's pretty much I follow the couple's lead.
Okay.
And then once I get an idea of what they want, then I would throw in suggestions. Most of their inspiration is Pinterest. So they may forward me a lot of Pinterest photos and inspirations. And so I can just take it from there and then we can horn in and see how we can customize it and make it more personalized for them.
Excellent. So there's a question I like to ask everyone, and that is, how do you recognize someone from Virginia?
How do I recognize someone from Virginia? Ooh, that is a good question. Usually, how they talk.
Okay.
Yeah, Virginians has, and I have it too. We don't have a Southern drawl, but we have it is drawing something. Okay, we kind of draw our words a little bit. So I can tell, like, 'cause there's a lot of people from the military here, and so we have people from all over who resides here. And but you can tell those native ones, they have that thing.
I think it's funny because all across Virginia, there's totally different accents. When you get closer to the beach, you get that almost like valley girl kind of like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see that.
yeah. That's what I've been noticing more recently. But I feel like accents are changing just across
Mm,
America. Like the younger people get, the less of an accent they have wherever it is that they're from.
I can see that. I can definitely see that because we all, we're like a melting pot, especially in this area. So I can see how our language is kind of fusing with, the times and the generation and the the cultural people that lives here.
Yeah. That's another thing that I am curious about. I know that this is considered the Bible Belt. So
Mhm.
do you, and I saw that video that you posted at the reception, is it like a completely different world from um the actual wedding ceremony most of the time?
It's a combination of the two. It is. It's a combination of the two. And I always remind myself, even though I am a minister, I am of this world. So therefore we have to embrace both sides. So you got to
Oh,
have your foot in both places.
definitely. And that's part of the fun of enjoying weddings too. I saw you also offer premarital counseling.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
that, how does that really work? I've always been curious.
Premarital counseling. Well, I must say that I don't use it as a prerequisite in order for me to marry, officiate weddings. If they choose to have premarital counseling, which, I prefer that they do, because that gives them a leg up on their marriage, to give them an idea of what to expect versus that preconceived ideals that you go into when you get married. But premarital counseling basically have you look at the different elements of how to communicate better, how to resolve conflict better, how to see how your family and how your upbringing and your experiences kind of mold who you are, and not necessarily um, and not necessarily be stuck there. Sometimes we have to grow, and how you can do that with your partner. So I always say, when you take premarital counseling, think of it as looking beyond that wedding day, because there's so much attention and planning for the wedding day, but they don't look at planning for their lives together. And premarital counseling would give you that leg up in order for you to do that.
Right. That's wonderful. I feel like that's really important because you want to have a union of two healed people.
Correct. Correct.
Mhm.
That's great. I like that. Can I use it?
Oh, and the first video, might I add, the caption was just so cute. It caught me. I are loving what I do. That's just so clever.
Thank you.
You're
Because I
welcome.
didn't, that was my first one. I didn't know exactly what to do or say. So let me just show you what I do. So they say pictures are worth 1,000 words. So that was my take on it.
Beautiful. I'm so excited to see what you have in store for the rest of this year.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited too. So whatever the Lord has in store for me, I'm there. I'm open to all opportunities as yourself. Thank you for contacting me. This is really great.
Absolutely. And honestly, I do believe in divine powers at work because I literally typed into Instagram marital minister. I hadn't
Really?
heard of you before.
Wow. Well, that just warms my heart.
And the fact that you're local, it was meant to be.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Vanessa.
Yes, Miss April, thank you so much for taking the time today.
It is my pleasure. It is my pleasure. And I I'm looking forward to listening to more of your podcast. And I see that you just um you horn in on what Hampton Roads have to offer, and I think that's great. Well, my name is April N. Brown. My parent, I should say, my parent company is called An April Affair. That's where the name came from, April. Um, and I am a wedding event specialist. I do officiating and premarital counseling. I have a master's degree in pastoral counseling. And so, therefore, I present to and I offer couples premarital counseling and marital counseling. I also am a life coach. And but I deal primarily with marriage. That's my forte there. So that's where I stay. I know my area and I know what lane to stay in, and that's my lane.
Is there anything else that you would like to speak about before we wrap things up?
Let's see. I I do have I actually am on a podcast with another group of ladies. Our podcast is called Uncorked in Conversation, and it's basically five girlfriends who get together who uncork a bottle of wine and we talk about whatever. We talk about marriage, we talk about social things, we talk about anything and everything that's a hot topic. So I'm fusing that with what I do as far as the marriage ministry that I do with church. So that's what I'm looking forward to in 2022 is to just grow in every area of my life, spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally, all of it. And I'm looking forward to this year. It's going to be a great
Do you
year.
have a hard time coming up with content ideas for your podcast? I find that there is nothing more embarrassing than all of a sudden being stumped in the middle of a conversation where it's like, I know I had more questions for you, but I just can't remember what they are right now. And that's why I'm trying Poddex. Poddex is the best all-in-one podcast idea generation tool. You get everything from episode ideas to interesting conversation starters for interviews, engaging discussions for your live streams, and even social media content ideas. With this tool, you don't have to spend weeks trying to come up with content for an episode or unique questions for your guests. Just shuffle the cards and pick one at random, hit the record button, and get started. Now you can make better content, have more fun while you're at it, and get your viral moment, all with Poddex. Head over to poddex.com and use code C4C.
Hey, this is Latasha Holloway. I plan to be the future mayor of Virginia Beach, but when the time comes, I will need your support. As a veteran of the healthcare field, I understand something about empathy. We must have empathy and compassion in order to improve Virginia Beach.